Governor Greg Abbott at the Alamo today signing 7 bills which expand gun rights across Texas. The laws become effective in September. Eyewitness News reporter Zach Briggs breaks down the highlights of the ceremonial signing and what it means for you.
They fought for freedom. They fought for liberty.
Governor Greg Abbott called the Alamo the cradle of liberty in Texas, citing the 1800s bloodshed.
They knew as much as anybody the necessity of being able to carry a weapon for the purpose of defending yourself against attacks by others.
The ceremonial signing of gun legislation began with permitless carry.
Constitutional carry is now law in Texas.
No longer will law-abiding Texans be required to obtain a license to carry handguns. The law also strips the need for training and a state background check. San Antonio and Maureen Hansen is among those opposed to permitless carry.
Just not anybody can come up and have a gun. We don't know their mental state, background, criminal history. It needs to be regulated.
Abbott signed a number of bills that limit federal government intervention. He declares Texas a Second Amendment sanctuary state.
This helps to shield Texas and Texans from overreaching federal government laws that we will not allow any Texan to enforce in the Lone Star State.
The Texas legislature also passed a law allowing travelers to store firearms in their hotel rooms. The NRA's executive vice president, Wayne LaPierre, made an appearance praising the path Texas is taking.
And it's an increasingly dangerous world. People want to be able to protect themselves, and thank God Texas is leading the way for the country in making that possible.
Over the past 2 legislative sessions, Texas lawmakers have passed 17 bills that strengthen gun owner rights. Zach Briggs, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.